The room was bathed in a warm, golden glow as the late afternoon sun spilled through the tall windows, casting long shadows that danced across the hardwood floor. Elena Rivera sat in her favorite chair by the window, her delicate hands trembling as she held a letter that had yellowed with age. Its edges were frayed, and the once crisp folds had softened from years of being opened and closed, over and over again. She didn't need to read it anymore, she had memorized every word. She could see his handwriting in her mind, hear his voice as if he were still there whispering each word to her. "My dearest Elena," the letter began. Just those words alone were enough to make her chest tighten, to make tears sting her eyes. 15 years. It had been 15 years since Michael left, and she still felt his absence like an ache that had never healed. It wasn't death that had taken him from her, nor betrayal. He had simply disappeared, swept away by dreams too big for their small hometown, leaving her with nothing but memories and the promises he made under the old oak tree in the park, a promise that he would always come back for her. She remembered the night he left as if it were yesterday. It had been a cool autumn evening, the scent of rain clinging to the air, leaves crunching beneath their feet as they walked hand in hand down the quiet streets. He had come to her door late, his eyes red, his hands shaking as he told her about the job offer in New York. She had smiled through the lump in her throat, hugged him tightly, and told him she was proud of him. She had wanted him to chase his dreams, to see the world, to be everything he wanted to be. But when he whispered, "I'll come back for you, I promise," she had believed him with all her heart. She watched him drive away that night, taillights disappearing into the mist, and something deep inside her cracked. The first few months after he left, she wrote him letters every week. She poured her heart into them, her longing, her fears, her love. But she never sent a single one. She didn't want him to feel guilty, didn't want him to feel tied down. She wanted him to soar, even if it meant she would be left behind. Years passed. The first year, she waited for his call every night, jumping at the sound of her phone. The second year, she told herself he must be busy building his new life. By the 5th year, she had stopped making excuses, but her heart refused to let go. Friends told her to move on. Her mother gently suggested she start dating again. But Elena buried herself in her work at the library, spending her days among the books where they had first met. She could still picture him there, sitting in the far corner with a stack of novels, his dark hair falling into his eyes, his lips curved in that crooked smile that made her heart race. She loved that library because it felt like a time capsule, like if she turned the corner fast enough, she might see him sitting there, waiting for her. It was on a rainy morning, years later, that she found something that would change everything. She had been shelving returned books when she noticed an envelope tucked between the pages of an old poetry collection. Her name was written on it in handwriting she would recognize anywhere. Her breath caught as she slid the letter out. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the paper and read, "Elena, if you're reading this, it means I never had the courage to come back. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved someone better than me. Someone who wouldn't leave. Michael." Tears fell freely as she clutched the letter to her chest. He hadn't forgotten her. All this time, she had thought he had moved on, that maybe she had been nothing more than a fleeting chapter in his life. But he had written this, he had cared enough to write, even if he hadn't been brave enough to send it. That night, Elena lay awake staring at the ceiling, the letter resting on the nightstand beside her. She thought about all the years she had spent waiting, wondering, hoping. She thought about the countless letters she had written and never sent. She realized she couldn't live with the questions anymore. She needed answers. She needed closure. And so, she packed a small bag, tucked his letter inside, and bought a bus ticket to New York. The city was overwhelming when she arrived, the constant hum of traffic, the towering buildings, the sheer number of people rushing around her. She felt small and out of place, but she refused to give up. She spent days searching online, asking around, visiting the places he had once mentioned in his letters. Weeks passed, but something in her heart told her to keep looking. One afternoon, exhausted and ready to give up, she wandered into a quiet park. And there he was. Michael sat alone on a bench beneath a towering tree, his shoulders hunched, his hair streaked with gray. He looked older, worn, but his eyes were still the same. When he saw her, his mouth fell open, and for a moment, they just stared at each other in stunned silence. "Elena," he whispered. Her breath hitched. "Michael." He stood slowly, as if afraid she might disappear if he moved too fast. Then he reached for her, and she fell into his arms, sobbing against his chest. They clung to each other, shaking with years of unspoken words. "I thought you forgot about me," she whispered. He shook his head, tears in his eyes. "I never forgot. I was just ashamed. I thought I wasn't good enough for you. I wanted to come back when I was someone you could be proud of. But life," his voice broke. "Life got in the way." She cupped his face in her hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I don't care about the past, Michael. I'm glad I found you." They spent hours talking, catching up on all the years they had lost. He told her about his struggles, how he had fallen into depression, how he had felt like a failure, how he had written her letters but never sent them. She shared her own pain, her own regrets, her own letters that had never left her drawer. It was raw and painful, but there was healing in their honesty. Over the next few weeks, they spent more time together, walking through the city, visiting bookstores, sitting in quiet cafes. The love between them was still there, but it had changed. It was no longer the fiery passion of their youth, but something deeper, steadier, born from years of longing and heartbreak. Eventually, they returned to their hometown together. The oak tree where they had first promised forever still stood tall, its branches reaching for the sky. They sat beneath it, carving their initials into the bark once again, older now, wiser, and finally ready to let go of the pain that had haunted them for so long. Michael knelt before her, tears in his eyes. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," he whispered. Elena smiled softly, brushing his hair back from his forehead. "You don't have to deserve it," she said. "I choose to give it to you." And in that moment, something inside both of them healed. They didn't know what the future held, but they knew they wanted to face it together. Elena framed his old letter and placed it on her bedside table next to her own letters, the hundreds she had written over the years. It was a reminder of the love they had lost and found again, a testament to the fact that sometimes, love isn't about perfection. It's about finding your way back to each other, no matter how much time has passed. And as they sat under the oak tree, watching the sun set over their hometown, they promised each other forever once again. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. And that was enough.